remember 5 years ago when banks nearly destroyed the world.
The report says the activities happen daily for at least a decade.
If things go well, they pick up huge bonuses. If things go badly, they don't have their shirts on the line.
This means that the central banks for the world are issuing paper money with absolutely no accountability to the people who are using this money.
And welcome back to Radio Free Canada Video Radio segment for June the 28th, 2013. Actually put the date in.
Wow.
We haven't done that like hardly at all. I mean, we've done 100 shows here and we've never done that.
Yeah, but, you know, people generally know what day it is anyway, you know.
This is magazine-style information. We go through all kinds of lamestream media to get those few golden nuggets of information, and we present you stories like this.
You might remember 5 years ago when banks nearly destroyed the world. Do you remember thinking, I couldn't get any more pissed off at financial institutions than I am right now? Well, lube up your ears because they're about to get
Some bombshell emails reportedly show how two big credit rating agencies accepted cash in exchange for greenlighting the risky practices that got us into this long mess. One S&P official reportedly emailed, "Let's hope we are all wealthy and retired by the time this house of cards falters." And another quote, "Lord help our expletive scam. This has to be the stupidest place I have worked at."
By the way, just incidentally, I'm guessing that's not the first time that Shep Smith has had to say, this has to be the stupidest place I've ever worked at. But now, look, you might have heard him during that report say credit rating agencies accepted cash in exchange for AAA ratings. That might sound to you like a bribe, when actually it's much worse than that. It's standard business practice.
Of course, it is standard business practice for them to scam the entire planet.
And I wonder how much coverage that's gotten in the mainstream press.
Let me think. Let me check. Oh, by the way, crickets. That's exactly what they're talking about. Nobody's talking about a bigger scam than LIBOR, if it's even possible.
I mean, can we maybe prosecute these guys now for accepting bribes?
Yeah.
These are the guys that rate countries' credit worthiness.
1,700 protesters occupying Wall Street got jailed. Number of Wall Street bankers that got jailed, 0. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
You're tuned into Radio Free Canada. We're telling the whole story, and we've got it right here.
In financial news, Bloomberg News is reporting traders at some of the world's biggest banks have manipulated key foreign exchange rates used to set the value of investments worth trillions of dollars. Traders said the rigging is accomplished by executing deals before and during the minute-long windows when benchmarks are set. The report says the activities happen daily for at least a decade. The latest news follows the public scandal over the rigging of the global interest rate LIBOR. Matt Taibbi wrote in his blog for Rolling Stone, quote, "If this story is true, it would almost certainly trump LIBOR for scale horribleness," he said. The U.S. House of Representatives, meanwhile, has passed a bill that would allow U.S. banks to skirt new financial regulations on derivatives trading by moving such operations overseas. Critics say the move could trigger another financial crisis by allowing risky deals to continue abroad. But some financial reformers are claiming a half victory because a majority of Democrats voted against the bill despite Wall Street pressure. The policy director of Americans for Financial Reform told Mother Jones magazine, quote, "I'm pretty psyched. A majority of Democrats voted against a pro-Wall Street bill, even though it was co-sponsored by Democrats."
So, rigging foreign exchange rates to make money in a special window they have before the rest of the world gets the rates they're set.
They've got a 1-minute window. They're sitting there waiting for the ratings to come out, and boom, they do all their trades before the whole world finds out.
And they make trillions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, that's not just rigging it. What we're talking about is insider trading of global proportions.
Well, it's not like, politicians don't do insider trading as well.
Oh, are you kidding me? They're always honest. You know that.
Yes, of course they are. Yes, of course.
Tell me it's not so,
and
is it?
They're not listening to our phone calls or monitoring our computer usage either. Sorry.
Bomb parts. bomb parts. At any rate, NSA being what they are, kind of creepy and weird, we really do have to take a look at these bankers and take a look at the way they're doing things. One thing that you don't know about the Canadian government is that the federal politicians, the federal ministers, are not analyzed for where their investments, their wives' and spouses' investments are, and they can pass legislation benefiting themselves and their investments without any problem.
Oh, you mean like the environmental minister having investments in the energy sector?
Yeah. Or like, the finance minister having investments in major banking.
Or the agriculture minister having interests in GMOs?
Hopefully I've got, this coordinated so it shows the pictures of the scams they've been caught on. Oh, by the way, thanks to the RCMP for not investigating or prosecuting because, of course, there's regulations to cover that.
Of course, they are trying to get some legislation passed to actually put some of these guys in jail.
Tell me, what is it? Okay, let's run it.
At the moment, bankers are incentivized sometimes to take huge risks. In a sense, it's a one-way bet. If things go well, they pick up huge bonuses. If things go badly, they don't have their shirts on the line. They can more or less walk away. That has to stop. One of the ways of doing that is not paying out bonuses right away, but deferring those disbursements until a time when we find out what the real risks of their decisions were. And at that point, we decide whether they should have bonuses. What we're doing with these reforms is making sure that firms put in place remuneration schemes that achieve that. And sitting alongside it, which is equally important, right at the top of banking, is a very strong regime of direct personal responsibility for identifying risks and bearing down on excessive risk. Where banks are in receipt of taxpayer support, the regulator should look at whether the people who took the decisions that led to the taxpayer support being needed have behaved recklessly. And if they have, they can be pursued for reckless behaviour and be prosecuted and possibly go to jail. I expect it's a power that would rarely be used. It's a nuclear deterrent, but it's there. It's a tool that could be used and which we intend should alter behaviour well prior to getting to that point. Bankers need to be aware that when they take really big decisions, that there's a downside as well as an upside. And we have a range of measures, proportionate measures, to put that in place. It wasn't in place prior to the crisis.
So can you say steaming pile of hot mess because they're not getting prosecuted?
Well, no, and this is a nuclear deterrent that they may use in the future at some time if they find they've been doing reckless things. I mean, it's financial terrorism is what they're committing.
Well, right now, major banks and, the Royal Bank is right in there with them all. They all have one pyramid structure. They're all looking towards one major bank for all of their policies, and those policies consistently create poverty around the planet. Banks make money up from nowhere. We're going to run a little special at the end of the show talking about the fact that banks make money up out of nowhere. But get to know what fractional reserve lending is and the fact that, parliaments and senates and all kinds of government officials are getting wise to the worldwide banking scam that is fractional reserve lending.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when people actually voice their opinions, they get punished for it. Recently, a guy went to jail for writing chalk on the sidewalk about Bank of America's crimes. Yet Bank of America was doing this.
Former employees of the financial giant Bank of America are claiming they were encouraged to push customers into foreclosure, including by lying. In sworn statements added to a multi-state class action lawsuit against Bank of America last week, the employees described regularly misleading homeowners seeking loan modifications and rejecting their applications for phony reasons. The employees allege Bank of America used the federal government's Home Affordable Modification Program, or HAMP, to rake in as much federal money as possible before ultimately foreclosing on the homeowners the program was meant to help. Simone Gordon, a former loan-level representative, said, quote, "We were told to lie to customers and claim that Bank of America had not received documents it had requested. In return for their deceitful practices, the employees say they were paid cash bonuses for the foreclosures they helped cause." The claims were first reported by the website ProPublica. Bank of America says the former employee's statements are rife with factual inaccuracies and has vowed to respond in court next month.
Yeah, sure, they're holding back because they don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, well,
I've never known somebody at bank to not sue somebody immediately.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, ever. I mean, obviously it's right, but the poor guy gets thrown in jail for writing on the sidewalk with chalk.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, come on. Really, guys, you don't pay tax, you don't pay income tax, certainly not the way that we do.
And you commit fraud on a massive scale.
Drug laundering, fractional reserve lending, just start lining it up. Okay, that's why we're doing a special called Freeloaders. It's going to be talking about the banks just freeloading off the backs of a lot of hardworking individuals out there. We're there for you, but
the biggest central bank is now in the news.
The World Bank is an international financial institution that's designated to help developing countries by providing loans, all in the name of, quote, reducing global poverty. However, the banking giant has been accused of actually increasing poverty by keeping the third world in perpetual debt and in servitude to the first world. But aside from its obvious critiques, there's also blatant criminal corruption taking place at the highest levels of the financial institution. What did you see?
I was a lawyer, and I saw securities fraud. I saw financial information that was not being disclosed to $180 billion worth of bondholders. It was my job to make sure that the financial statements were correct.
Where was this money being laundered? To whom?
The money was going every which way because anybody that reported misconduct was fired. And my story is about trying to uncover the cover-up. This is corruption in the entire world.
What of the corporate press? You said that you continuously tried to go to them with the story to cover it, and you were shunned as well.
Absolutely, and the reason why I found out, it's because the corporate press is owned by one mega conglomerate. All of the financial institutions in the world, just about, are part of this scheme to rip off everybody, every single citizen on this planet. That's what I'm talking about. So they own 40% of the assets of all of the companies traded on the capital markets of the world, and they own 60% of the earnings for every year. This means that the central banks for the world are issuing paper money with absolutely no accountability to the people who are using this money. And pretty soon, in a matter of weeks probably, the whole system is going to come to a screeching halt with something called gold backwardation.
Thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely be following your case and covering it as it develops. Karen Hedges, former senior counsel at the World Bank. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
yes, indeed, the International Monetary Fund creating poverty from one end of the nation or one end of the globe to the other.
Well, it's not like we didn't know about that.
Yeah, but we're working on the solution right here at Radio Free Canada. I'm Darren Howard.
And I'm Robert Nisbet.
Stay with us because we're going to be talking about the G8 coming and a story that amazed and shocked me. And I mean, it was phenomenal. Talking about a bunch of fakers and liars. You're tuned in to Radio Free Canada. We've got the real story for you.
Ratings agencies like Standard & Poor's and Moody's are supposed to rate investments as safe or not safe. These agencies played possibly the central role in the financial crisis. Thanks to emails and documents disclosed in recent lawsuits, we know the agency's top rating, AAA, could be obtained for basically a price. It, quote, stopped being something that had to be earned and turned into something that could be paid for. Emails from S&P executives indicate an awareness of the payola practices. Lord help our effing scam, said one. And another, let's hope we are all wealthy and retired by the time this house of cards falters. A lot of people escape regulation and accountability in the wake of the crisis. The ratings agencies not only got away with it, they've been rewarded with more power and credibility. When S&P downgraded the U.S. credit rating, everyone paid attention. The trouble is, no one was paying attention when they sold the country and the world a pack of lies, also they could rake in more in ratings fees.